Hello firewood friends, it's Mike with KNLFirewood, and today we're going to put this Eastonmade to the test. This is one of the reasons I bought this machine. I like the fact that when we had big rounds, we can put them on the log lift, get them up on the table, split them, and then the halves wouldn't fall back off on the ground. You'd have to rehandle those. I like that a lot. And I've got a lot of these pieces back there in the wood yard that are about this size. So we're gonna see if we can maybe take big pieces and make small pieces. This piece is 27 by 24. And that one's 27 by 24. So they must have been the same log cut down. And an update on the MS210, they had to order a new carburetor, and like everything else with COVID, it's either on back order or on a slow shipment coming from somewhere. I don't know, but they don't have any. They've got one on order. It'll be here when it gets here. But I've got the 064, which I think I have to use it on this anyway. But that's my everyday saw now. And I do use the steel chain bar oil, the winter blend. I use it all year round. I think the one you get in the gray bottle is a little too thick. It's thicker than maple syrup. I end up making a mess with it every time. So I use this. It pours a little nicer and it lubes the chain just fine. All right, here's a question for you guys. So why does my saw do this? Starting at 19 inches, right? By the time I get down here, I'm at 20 and a half-ish. Why does it taper off like that? I do not know. It's done that. All my saws do that. It's got to be something I'm doing, or the way I'm sharpening, or something. But let me know. Here's a tool you haven't seen on my channel yet. This is the Log Right, either pickaroon or hookaroon. I guess I don't know the difference, but I'm gonna say it's a pickaroon. It's easy to grab whole logs and roll them around, or pieces. Not a log cant or anything like that, but it'll do the trick. All right, here we go. We're gonna try to run this big one up here. We just cut up. Sorry about getting you knocked off the log there. I didn't mean for that to happen, but it's pretty cool. Axis has been warming up for a few minutes. I'm gonna turn up the gas and get the hydraulics on and see if we can split this bad boy. that's that. The hardest part was getting the piece flipped over onto its face, which I could have remedied that before I put it on the lug lift. I just kind of put it on there upside down. That was a piece of oak, 20 inches thick by the time I cut it, and 36 inches by 24 inches or whatever it was. That's a big one, and it's heavy. But I want to go over a few things with this Axis that I think they could improve on. Now, I'm not a log splitter designer or a conveyor designer, but there's an issue with this conveyor, and I'm not the only one that's got it. See what's happening here? You'll get pieces that just accumulate down here. What happens is this flap will come up, and that piece will ride on that flap, and then this angle line here will come through what's meant to grab a hold of the piece, but the piece will ride on top of the flap and the angle iron, and the angle iron will just pass it and keep going. I don't know if you put in a piece of steel right here, you know, you could come in from the side and screw them into place here to keep that piece from sliding back. I don't know the answer, but there needs to be a remedy for that. It's probably pretty cheap, and they could do that, I'm sure. The other thing, this is meant to be a mobile unit, and if you watch the reveal video, you know that I picked it up at night. It was like 10 o'clock at night, so it was pitch dark. I had to have my father-in-law follow me home because it has no lights on it. But it's meant to go down the road, no brake lights, no turn signals. I didn't think about any of that before I went and picked it up. I didn't think it would have it, nor did I think I would need it. But it just dawned on me as I was pulling out in pitch dark, hey, this thing doesn't have any lights on it. But I don't think it'd be too hard to put some lights on both sides of this, wired in for brake lights and a turn signal, and they'd be fairly protected if they're in that piece of metal. I don't know. Like I say, I'm not a splitter designer, but that's just something that I'm thinking about. And on mine, I don't know if you call this the piston, but it doesn't go all the way up into this casing. If you watched my last video and it had that piece stuck, I think this is part of the problem. Because if this knife would go on up into this casing, at least down to this black line, then this knife, the tip of this knife, would go up at least even to the peelers, and it would have pulled that block off. Now, if your knife gets in more than, you know, 1.5 inches, then these peelers are gonna work, and 99% of the time that's probably what's gonna happen. But on that nasty piece that I had up here the other day, that extra inch up here might have been all it took. And I don't think that's normal. I don't think that's normal for a cylinder or a piston like that not to go back up into that casing. I don't know, somebody's gonna have to tell me otherwise. And then the other thing on here that had to take a little bit of customization was the exhaust, or this deflector here. If you saw Ohio Wood Burner, when he got it delivered, that deflector was pointing back this way, right here to the air intake, and it caused the engine to not work very well. So when I got, and so they made their fix, and when I got mine, this deflector was pointing down towards the ground there. Well, as you can see, that direction is right where you stand when you split wood. So you get all the heat from the engine and all the exhaust from the engine. And it doesn't take long in these 90-degree days for that to add up. And then the exhaust, man, you get a headache pretty quick. So I called and talked to him about it. So our only options are, you know, that way, this way, which is no good because it's back towards the air intake. Straight down,
which is no good, because then you're going to potentially damage these wires in this cap, or straight up, which is okay unless you keep it outside and it rains. There wasn't a hole where there is one right there. I had to drill that hole to point the exhaust up. So what I do is I unscrew that. I take that screw out, point it down when I'm not using it, and then point it up when I am using it. That way rain won't get into it. Now I don't have this thing in a building. I don't have a building big enough for it, but I do keep a tarp on it when I'm not using it, so it is fairly protected. And this winter I've got a place to store it inside. So anyway, those are the 3 improvements I think they could make on this. There's got to be a muffler guy out there somewhere that can make a contraption that'll fit on here that they can buy aftermarket for a few dollars and either offer it as a option or just sell it with it. Yeah, so don't get me wrong, guys. This machine is awesome. I love it. I have no regrets in buying it. Those few things that we were just talking about, I'm nitpicking a little bit. I do think they could fix that conveyor, and I do think they could come up with a solution for the exhaust. The lights are here or there. I mean, the manual says you're not supposed to travel with this thing going more than 50 miles an hour anyway. I don't see myself taking this too far. I've got some friends down the road who've got some wood that they'd like to have split up, maybe over to my father-in-law's or something, but we're talking, 5 miles this way or that way. It doesn't matter. I'll get there in the daytime and won't be breaking any speed records on the way. So lights are probably last on the list, but I do think they could fix that conveyor, and I do think they could fix the exhaust. Outside of that, this thing's awesome. Oh, and the cylinder, I guess. That bothers me a little bit, but if that's the way it is, that's the way it is. I'll have to just get over it and keep splitting. There you can really see the angle on that log now. When I cut that, it cuts it up at an angle like that. I don't know why it does that. You guys are gonna have to tell me. Alright, so I turned the engine down. I want to show you something else. Just watching this cylinder as I'm cutting. And you can kind of tell right there is kind of where the line was earlier. But as I'm splitting, this newer clean area here isn't going back into this casing. That's not normal. I don't know what's going on there. Eastonmade, if you're watching, let me know what's up. Alright everybody, that's going to be it for today, I think. And I was keeping notes on my channels that I watch that are less than 1,000 subscribers. I think I'm down to one that I haven't mentioned. Larry Cluck. I watch him actually quite a bit. He falls trees and stacks wood and splits wood, and he's a go-getter. So if you haven't seen Larry yet on Larry Cluck's YouTube channel, go watch him. And if there are some other ones that I haven't mentioned that I should go watch, leave them down in the comments. In my spare time, I'll give them a look. And like always, get to work, because this stuff does not split itself.